I'm going to tell you about the time my parents tried to impregnate me with my brother. Welcome back! Welcome back! That sounded more natural. I'm in this really weird transitional phase of when I sit down to do these types of videos, I feel like I need to be the same person I've always been, and I'm not that person, and it's weird. I'm way more chill now. So I'm gonna try to be chill now without going, welcome back! I'll just say, welcome back. Anyways, I cannot believe that I am doing 2 sit-down videos in a row. This feels very strange, but you know what? It feels good to be back to my roots. Before we get started, make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel. That's it, I guess. And I have other social media. Check out my other social media. Okay, last week I talked about the fact that I've been really tapping into my psychic abilities, telling people their past, predicting the future, having premonitions, you know, average stuff. And in that, I said that I've been having some really interesting, weird, gross, horrifying dreams, and I asked if you'd be interested in seeing them, and a lot of you said yes. So today, I'd like to tell you about some of the dreams or nightmares that I've been having lately. What I've been trying to do is when I wake up, I try to write down what I can remember, which is sometimes really coherent and I remember the dream, and then other times, I get things like clown mouth monster in glass bin, trick was that they made people think it was open, was a lion disguised as a human, or vice versa, got out, wrestled with it. Or woman asked to borrow money, man having stroke, running back, is it better to run, borderline foolish, get back, both doctors sitting calmly as I'm screaming. But others, I have fully fleshed out written stories. So those are the ones that I'm going to be sharing with you. I also want to remind you guys, I mentioned this in the last time I did one of these videos about my dreams, which is I think 2 years ago, it'll be linked down below, that I strictly lucid dream. Meaning that I am almost always fully aware that I am dreaming. I can somewhat control my dreams in the way that I can predict what's happening next. I can dodge falling body parts or bullets. And overall, I know that I'm not actually in danger. So these dreams aren't really scary to me more than watching a scary movie, although I do wake up screaming a lot. But actually, I did have one dream recently that was not lucid, and it's the first non-lucid dream that I can remember having in I don't even know how long, and it was a plane crash, and I could feel myself accepting death, and now I know what it feels like to be about to die. And I also had one where there was this big mansion, and I was out in this field with this really low fence, and there were murderers in the house, and it felt so real that I got up in the middle of the night and made sure my door was locked because I'm not used to not lucid dreaming, so it was very scary. But also, my dreams do come true a lot, either literally or metaphorically. Way too often I dream something that does end up coming true in the future. So when I have a nightmare, it's scary, but not in the way that nightmares are generally scary, but in the way that I don't know if this is a dream or a premonition. So when I'm dreaming about dismembered limbs on a conveyor belt, I'm like, Speaking of my weird brain and sleep issues, I'd love to thank today's sponsor, nice segue, Care Of. You guys know I'm super invested in my health, and part of that has been recommendations by my trainer, my nutritionist, friends and family, the internet, about different supplements and vitamins. I work out and train a lot, so I need a ton of energy. I need a lot of focus on muscle and bone support, and really just need some help rounding out my diet because I generally don't enjoy most vegetables.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
I also have really high stress levels, a lot of fatigue, and a lot of trouble sleeping. Because so many people have so many different needs and there's so many products with different claims, Care Of makes it super easy. You take a quick 5-minute quiz online about your lifestyle and your diet, and Care Of will make recommendations for you for your own personal pack of vitamins. Which I've been taking these for 2 weeks and am just now realizing that they have cute little quotes on them. How many nuggets of information have I just thrown away? You don't have to choose them all. You can add some if you'd like, you can delete some if you'd like. And obviously, as with anything that you're ingesting, make sure that you talk to your doctor and do your research before you take them. But if you are somebody who's been looking into vitamins and wanted to try them but didn't know where to start, this is the best and most efficient way to get what your body needs. I personally have seen such a change in my energy and my sleep levels and my recovery after a big workout. So go ahead and click the link in my description and use my code GabbyH for 25% off your first order at Care Of. Okay, so back to my brain that no amount of vitamins can fix. Okay, so this is kind of personal, but when I was about 9 years old, my mom had a stillbirth with a baby boy, and it really took a toll on my family. It was especially hard on my mom, obviously. 3 more girls and 1 booming baby boy later, there are now 7 kids in my family, and my parents are done having kids. So here's the dream. I am trapped in a room and my parents keep trying to impregnate me. I was the only person left who could do it, whatever that means. And they kept saying, you have to do this, you have to do this, we need the stem cells. But they wouldn't tell me what the stem cells were for. I just threw up in my mouth. Oh my God, that was disgusting. In that dream, I had fought this for 20 years, but they had me trapped to make sure I had this baby. So finally I agreed, because at this point I'd been trapped for so long, it felt like there was no other option. So it was either I was going to die in this room or I could just have this baby. So as soon as I agreed, they injected me with drugs and I collapsed to the floor, and my perspective of the dream changed from me seeing everything from point of view to I'm able to see myself. So I collapsed on the ground, I hit my head, and I see one of my eyes do this. Did I do it? Did I do it? So as soon as they drug me, I'm laying on the ground, I'm passing out, and I realize it's a mistake. So I'm calling out for help, saying, please don't do this. And I can hear them both saying, we need this, we need this, we need this. My vision and my hearing fades out, and then it fades back in, presumably 9 months later. Because the next thing in the dream is I come to, my stomach has been cut open and sewed back together, and they have my baby in their arms, or their baby. I don't know whose incest baby this is, to be honest. So I say, why? Why did you do this? So then they walk over to this corner of the room, and there was a bunch of furniture covered with sheets. That was one thing I noticed about the room. And they pulled a blanket off what I thought would have been a couch or a table or a chair or something, and it was an infant-sized coffin. They opened it up, and inside was a very decayed baby corpse. So I said, why did you do this? And they said, we're going to bring your brother back to life. And then I was like, he's been dead for 20 years. You can't bring him back. He's decayed. He's nothing but a pile of rot. You cannot bring him back to life. And then they started sticking the new baby with needles and things. And I said, you're going to kill a baby to try and bring a baby that can't come back to life? And then I just keep screaming in my dream and pleading for them to not kill my baby, their baby, whoever's baby it is. And then I woke up. Moving on. This one, I have no idea what it means. It was just so it was somebody's birthday party, forget who, don't think I knew him, never cared. And it was at this very weird barn very far away, and we took a bus there, like a school bus. There was somebody who showed up on the bus very last minute who was very mysterious and eerie, but we weren't allowed to ask who it was. The birthday girl, whoever she was, wanted us to all play in the mud pool for her birthday. Basically out in the yard. Like, have you ever seen what pigs play in? It was like that, but it was deeper. It was a very muddy pool. I was very excited, but I remember specifically we could not wear swimsuits. We had to be fully clothed. 90% of these details seem like they don't matter, but they were so drilled specifically into our heads in the dream that I'm hoping that somebody has some insight on it, because they said it like 50 times. You can't wear swimsuits. You have to cover 90% of your body. So I'm just trying to give this weird ass nightmare some type of meaning, but they kept making us wait to get into the mud pool and making us do other activities like hike up this really big hill. I seem to be the only person that noticed the human skull laying in the ditch on the path, but whatever. Then it was time to play in the mud pool, finally. It was kind of like Oobleck. It was super, super hard, and then it turned really liquidy. And do you guys remember Oobleck? I thought everybody knew what Oobleck was, but apparently nobody does. I'll show you, hold on. Oobleck. Cornstarch. Oh, I keep throwing up in my mouth. Water. Okay, yeah, that'll do. See you over there. This is exactly what the mud pool was like. Solid to the touch, but then as soon as you pick it up, it's liquid. Science. And then it's hard again. So that's what we were swimming in. So in the mud pool, there were these creatures called chimpanzees, which were definitely not chimpanzees. They were a cross between an anteater, a very large fluffy penguin, a stuffed animal, and I don't know, a
monster?
There was one chimpanzee in particular that everybody was making fun of. Then the owner of the chimps got mad as hell, yelling, "Don't talk badly about him because it'll hurt his feelings." Apparently he had another chimpanzee that was torn to shreds. This is called foreshadowing, and this one was given to him as a gift, so it was very special to him. He kept saying this chimpanzee was a loner, and if you could, show him a little bit extra time and love. Go out of your way to give him some extra attention. I seem to be the only one in this dream that cared at all about this chimpanzee. I went and laid with and played with the chimp that was definitely not a chimp, and I remember the feeling of enjoying laying with him because it was easy. It was low energy, I didn't need to entertain him. We could just be there enjoying the Oobleck mud. Then it was dinner time and everybody was very excited, including me, because I like dinner. It was turkey sausage and these very large chunks of turkey, which was most definitely not turkey. I was in line, I didn't get any yet. but somebody started screaming. Then panic ensued, and next thing I knew, everybody was running down the hill. It was dark, but I looked down the hill and everybody was getting ripped to shreds, and all the chimpanzees were getting ripped to shreds. It was very unclear what was doing it, but the rest of the dream was me just yelling and pleading with everybody to stop running down the hill. There was something about running down the hill that I can't, now that I'm awake, place my finger on, but it was very obvious that that direction was not the way to go, besides the fact that everybody was being ripped to shreds. The sun came up in the dream and I had some type of realization that I can't remember now, and I decided that the best way to escape would to be run up the hiking hill. So I started running up the hill, and there was this long string of honey jars filled with urine. Then I noticed the same human skull from before, and then I woke up. Moving on. Okay, so this one I remember being the most frustrated I've ever been in a dream. For 2 days straight, my brain was not working. And I kept saying to people, hey, my brain's not working, and nobody was listening to me. Everybody thought I was joking, but truly my brain was not working. For example, I would make a hair appointment or a nail appointment and we would confirm the date and the time and everything. And then moments later, I would hit them up and be like, hey, I need my nails done. Are you free? And they'd be like, we literally just made an appointment. Then I confirmed an appointment for 9 p.m. So we were all sitting and talking. Some family was making a dinner. It wasn't my family. I don't know who they were. Don't think I knew them. Never cared. But we're sitting there and I'm like, I'm late for my appointment. So I ran outside, I got in the car, and I'm rushing to my appointment hoping I make it in time, but then I look at the clock and it's only 2:30 p.m. AKA 6.5 hours before I had to be at the appointment, but I was sure I was late. So I drove back home in a panic trying to explain again, my brain isn't working. But somebody kept interrupting, just telling a fun jokey story, and I was like, no, please listen to me. This is important. Please listen to me. And then she said, your millennial is showing, and everybody laughed. So then I leave, I drive away again, none of the clocks are lining up. I'm freaking out because my brain's broken, and I start having a panic attack and my throat starts closing. So I turn around, I get back to the house that looks completely different now, and my friend Taylor is there. I started grabbing her, letting her know that I couldn't breathe or talk, and she calls 911, but nobody was answering. So I start ripping off my clothes because I felt like I was suffocating. I knew I was about to die, so I grabbed a pencil and paper and I started writing down my passwords to everything, and I wrote, please delete anything I wouldn't want the world to see. And then as I'm about to lose consciousness, a yellow car pulls up full of first responders, and I mean full of first responders. Like 50 people fell out of that thing. So I get embarrassed, I start trying to pull on my clothes, and a bunch of them are being really rude and making comments about my body, and one of them stops him and says, give her a minute, can't you see what's happening here? No, he said, can't you see what's going on? Is what it was. So then they checked me out, and by they I mean the one paramedic that gave a f because everybody else was being super mean, and also we're half naked, and that's all I remember. This one just says, roommate situation was weird. A lot of us worked at the same place, but 2 people were off. One guy ended up getting arrested out of nowhere, pulls out a knife and starts slicing heads in half. I actually remember that very, very vividly. It was very Quentin Tarantino. They were slicing people's heads in half, and then half the brain was going and sliding off, and then the other body would fall the other way. So it was going. This one's my most recent one, and the weirdest is one. So it started in the kitchen, and Monica, my sister, was in the living room. I walked into the living room and there were 3 or 4 little kids there that I figured must be from the center that I volunteer at. Sometimes I go hang out at Watts Empowerment Center, and I was like, oh, these kids must be from there. So I sat down next to one of the little girls and I asked her name, and she said, why are you here? Very angry, she did not want me there, and I said, this is my home. And she said, can't you go stay with your dad instead? And I said, my mom and my dad still live together, this is my home. And again, she said, can't you leave? And I said, this is my home, and if you're going to be here, you're going to respect me. And then there was just a lot of tension between me, the kids, eventually their parents showed up, and there was a lot of tension between us. My sister was being really rude to me. Anytime I would try to defend myself, I'd try to speak up, she'd tell me to shut up. Somehow I got lured onto the beach at night and something instantly felt off. There was a massive dead elephant and a dead baby elephant, and nobody else seemed to notice or care. I don't know what's with me and dead elephants. Elephant sinks to the bottom of the ocean. It just starts like twitching, and then it dies, and then it just sinks. It was a beach, but it was a wasteland. The water was super low and out. It was like if you were in the Grand Canyon and the beach was the canyon, but behind us was also a massive hill, as if you were hiking. Like if I was standing on the ledge, if I turned around, I could touch the dirt because it was so steep. It was full of people, but nobody seemed human. All of a sudden, the ground started shaking like an earthquake. Out into the water, what should have been the sunset coming out from beneath the water turned into a whale being lifted by I don't know what, but it was being contorted and convulsing and was clearly in pain. If you've ever seen like Pokemon, the movie, when Mewtwo would like lift things up and go, it was like that was happening to the whale. There was bright orange, yellow, and red bursting around it as if it was a fireball and shooting out like electricity. And then it started hurling towards us. So then everything started shaking and we're on very fragile ground and a landslide is clearly about to happen. Everything's crumbling and falling apart. Blood and flubber from the whale was being flung all over everybody. We are now covered in whale guts and everybody's running for the hills. Actually, we're running away from the hills, I guess. It was obvious that as soon as the whale hit the earth, we would all be caught in a landslide
and die.
It was like a meteor made out of dead animals. So I'm running and I look to my left at the hill, and out of the hill, I see corpses start coming out as if they'd been buried vertically and their limbs start falling out of the cliff like this. Where's my head? Oh God. All these corpses start peeking out of the cliff, their heads, their arms, their hands. They were dead, but they weren't skeletons. They were still in that very decay-y place where it was like, oh, how long have you been dead? A couple weeks now? So I somehow escaped. I got back to the house and then I started trying to make the world's largest chocolate donut in a pan that is not made for donuts. Okay, so this one was so vivid. The metaphors were so unapologetically on the nose, just like in my poetry, Adultolescence, available now on Amazon, in Target, in Barnes & Noble, and your other local bookstores. But it all really came to fruition the next day. So as I've referenced, last year was probably one of the hardest years of my life. I was definitely going through Saturn return or what the ever, shedding a lot of negativity and toxicity from my life, going through a lot of big life changes, and having a lot of growing pains, and also having a lot of trouble letting go of the past, of people I needed to let go of traumas, of things that hurt me. And at this point, I had been in therapy for so long and I was getting so sick of hearing myself talk about it. It felt like I was going in every week talking about the same situations, the same people, never reaching a solution. And it felt like I was making it worse because every time I started to get over it a little, I would go into therapy and talk about it and just dig open all those old wounds. Basically, I was over it. So the night before my session, I texted my therapist and said basically that, and said I was tired of talking about it and I didn't want to come in. Then I go to sleep. That night, I had a dream that I was holding a baby in my arms. Are we picking up on a pattern? There was this little cute baby salamander, and as the baby reached to touch it, its legs fell off and it transformed into a giant, vicious, venomous snake. Then the snake started snapping at the baby and I was trying so desperately to keep the baby safe. So I find this box and I'm fighting the snake into it, trying to keep the baby safe, slamming the lid on the snake's head and body, and finally I get the snake completely into the box. I tie the string around it a million times, wrap it up as tight as I can, and the box is bouncing and moving around all over the floor because the snake is fighting so aggressively inside. So I go over and I sit on the box. I feel it under me rumbling, and eventually it slows down and then finally comes to a complete stop, and I know that the snake died inside. So I wake up to a text from my therapist saying the last time he saw me, he could tell that I was experiencing and reliving some really traumatic events that came out in feeling trapped and rage, and he thought it was really important to work through these feelings. If I wanted to come in, he would still be at the office, and he was gonna go to the office that morning anyways for our session, and if I decided last minute to come in, then he would be there for me. So I went in that morning and I talked about the dream, and as I was describing the dream, it became so obvious. It was like the baby was my innocence, and the cute friendly salamander turning into this massive dangerous snake represented the deception and betrayal that I had experienced. Trying to keep my innocence while fighting off this snake, boxing up my problems and trying to put a lid on it, even with the rage inside,
trying to fight its way out.
And then it died. And that was the day in therapy that I had this breakthrough, that I felt all of the rage and sadness that I was feeling die. I forgave everybody who betrayed me and tried to destroy me, and I literally just let it die. That was the day that I truly started healing, and it pushed me to the place that I am today, in a much happier, calmer, better place. So that's it for today. I think we did enough. This is this week's Showstopper of the Week. Thank you so much for all of your support, and thank you so much to all of my patrons. Thank you so much to Travis Wright, who is my rainbow patron. Thank you so much to my blonde tier and my yellow tier on Patreon. You guys are making my dreams come true, truly. So give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and as always, I love you very much. Thanks for being a part of my family, and I'll see you next time.